All right, so today we're going to continue working on this painting, and I'm going to paint the car. So I have today Phthalo Blue. I have green shade here. Phthalo Blue, red shade will be fine too. I have Naples Yellow, Cadmium Yellow Light or Cadmium Yellow Medium, any yellow you have, and white. So I'm going to start with making the color of the car. So I'm taking Phthalo Blue and I'm introducing Naples Yellow. I want the car color to be on the blue side. Now, one more color, I'm going to add one more color to this in a minute. And it's a bit of raw umber. Again, just to tone it down and make sure that the color is kind of a not earthy, but not too strong, because we have shadows and light on this car. So to make my shadows or to make my blue darker, I'm going to use raw umber. It's a really lovely color. It will not change the actual color of the car, but it will make it look darker. So now I have the color right there, and I think I need a little bit of more yellow because that's too blue. So I'm going to introduce Naples Yellow. And I'm using a flat brush or a any flat brush will do. Yep, that's very close. Okay, this is going to dry darker. So just keep in mind, I'm going to keep in mind that this is going to dry darker. And let's take this color and start introducing it on the car. Let's take this right here. This is where the luggage is, so it's a bit darker. It's going to be a bit darker, and this is where raw umber is going to be introduced. A bit of raw umber in here. Squeeze a bit. Right, okay, let's take a tiny bit of raw umber. It gives it a greenish color, which is fine because this car is surrounded by green. So if you see a bit of green when you're mixing the raw umber in there, that's fine, no problem. Here we go. This is my shadow part. Okay, now wipe my brush, go back, and let's work on the rest of the car. And I'm going to show you slowly how we're going to do some of these beautiful reflections. And let's do this using part. So instead of painting the whole car, I'm just going to paint the upper part, and then we will introduce some darks and light. Let's take a bit of raw umber here and kind of introduce that back again here where the luggage is. You don't see it that much because we're going to be highlighting anyway part of this car, so you don't want too much dark in there, because by the time we highlight the surrounding, this part that we are I'm painting right now will look darker. Okay. This is my main color right there, and I introduce to this color different other colors and highlights. It looks flat right now, but that's okay because we don't have any reflection done yet. We don't have anything on this card yet. So now let's say this is the upper part of the card. And we're going to do this part. Okay. It's very tempting to just keep going, but I just want to show. All right. So now it looks flat. So what I'm going to do at this point is start introducing some highlights. I'm going to take white. And introduce it to the combination or the colors that I have here. And slowly, not right away, like don't put too much white at first, because we're going to work on this slowly, right? This is metal, so there's a lot of reflection in there, and the reflection is not exactly the same everywhere. Otherwise, if we don't do this, we don't put the reflection, it's going to look too flat. I switched to a brown brush. I'm going to take more white at this point because I'm adding now dark. I'm doing the medium, or I did the medium. I'm going to put the light color right now, and it's really, really strong. But that's okay. This is actually a strong reflection on the metal. Okay, a little bit here. Nice detail. You can see we're getting beautiful kind of color right now. So I'm going to go back, pick up some of the original color that I have in here, and it doesn't really have to be exactly the same, because if you look at the reference, the color on the card, the colors all over, the shades, the values are different. So I'm not worried about getting exactly the same color for the card. Okay, I'm going to take, now I'm going to darken my green or turquoise, and I'm going to put a bit here. You can hardly see it because once I start, you'll see it more once you start putting the highlights around this area here. And I'll show you here. This highlight on this side, on the left side, has a bit of green in it. So I'm going to introduce a tiny bit of yellow, white, in that same color. Okay, so everything goes back to the base color. Everything I'm adding goes into the base color. So it's like very subtle values when you're using, when you're looking at the reference, you'll see really subtle values of greens and dark blue and light blue, and it's very, very nice. And right here as well, just a bit. The green in here is a reflection of the trees around. I'm going to take a little bit of white, put it in that green, bluish green. And I'm going to highlight this part. It's all about little details in here. I know it takes time, but that's what makes it look really interesting. Okay, go back. Nice. Okay. Now make sure that I'm going to make sure that this part is not highlighted, because this is where the luggage is. So I'm going to leave it alone. I'm going to go back to this. And then I will adjust all of the colors again one more time. So I'm going to take now, clean my brush, go back to the blue, original blue I have, and adjust the highlight a bit here because I pushed it a bit too much. We don't want to lose the color of the card itself, but we need to put some of these highlights. I'm going to grab white at this point. I have the color on my brush. I'm going to grab white, and like any metal, any reflection of a metal, I'm going to get a stronger white on a small part. Okay, clean this. Right there. And I'm getting beautiful reflections. Perfect. All right, let's put a bit of highlight in here. Right there. Awesome. Okay. Let's do this part, the right-hand side part, and then I'll come back to this and adjust if there's anything to be adjusted. Actually, I can see that this line should be a little bit stronger, or right there. Okay, a little bit of more reflection here. Okay. Let's do the right-hand side. Same idea, base color. I'm going to be introducing more of the yellows, or greens I should say, and whites in a minute. basically right now I'm painting what I'm seeing. That's all I'm doing. Reflection. I'm going to introduce white now. Medium tone, not highlighted. Medium. Go with the, we should work with the shape of the car. So it's curved. So everything I'm doing right now, any highlights I'm putting in there, I'm trying to curve my highlights. So they should go with the shape of the car. Medium tone. I'm going to take white, more white, into the blue. Now, let's leave it alone for a minute, because I need this to dry. And I'm going to go back to the card and give this a little bit more color and reshape the color in here, or the highlight. Okay, I'm going to leave it to dry. I'm going to take a little bit of yellow, put it here in the color. Come here, put that yellow and yellow turquoise. So the luggage is not straight. So we're going to get a bit of movement up here. All right. That's awesome. Good, good, good. Okay. Let's continue. Again, a little bit of kind of movement of reflection here and there. So it's not flat. And now, I think this is dry. I'm going to take white, more white. Not by itself, just more. I'm introducing more white to the blue I have here. And I'm going to give this a really shiny, strong highlight. And I'll wait for it to dry, and then I'll introduce more. So there, a little bit here. Take white only, kind of, and get it in here. There's a really shiny part right there. And we're going to leave this alone. That's it. Now, I'm going to take a bit of that blue, phthalo, introduce white, just phthalo blue and white. And let's put some of this phthalo blue and white in certain areas here, because again, all of this reflection of the sky and the greenery, and you will see a little bit of that blue in there. And if you see blue, blue, that's a reflection of the sky. Okay. All right. Let's continue. Now, I'm going to go back, take the original color of the card, and let's continue. So if we do it this way, if we do it in parts, in sections, it's easier than trying to do the whole thing at the same time. All right, now let's come this way. It's a bit too blue. No, it's not. It's good. Let's get a bit of Naples yellow in here. Tiny bit. You see? Yeah, that's better. And again, see, even if I have the color that I was working on dry, it doesn't matter, because, you know, this is like like I mentioned before, a combination of many reflections around. So many colors are in here. It's not one color. I always try to start with the dark color. So I introduce a little bit now of raw umber in there. On this side, I see more blue. It's the sky reflection. I really don't have to do it right now. I can just kind of paint the color of the card, and then I can introduce the different shades and reflections of whatever is surrounding the card. Okay, let's do that. I'm leaving a tiny bit of a line in there, just a tiny bit of the line, that brown line, just so I can see where the card, the detail of the card, the trunk, the different parts of the card is or are, so I don't want to lose the shape of the card. That's what I'm trying to do. Okay. Again, I'm not really concerned about the shade of the color I'm mixing. Doesn't matter. So many reflections on this card. I'll try to mix the same as much as I can. If I can't, no problem. by the time we put all of the different reflections around the card or on the card, it's going to be okay. This is not what we did before, but that's okay. What we did is we did a small section first and then we worked on the rest of the card, but we don't have to do this right now. I just wanted to show you without kind of overwhelming. Using too many colors, it will be overwhelming. All right, we're almost there. Okay. Let's push this out a tiny bit. There. I got a nice detail. Actually, let's push all the color down because that's a little bit of red in there. So there's a bit here. Okay. So I'm not restricted with the actual detail. Now I'm going to introduce raw umber again to the color. And I'm just going to put some raw umber wherever I see a little bit of darks and reflections. Right here, maybe a tiny bit. Also, there will be some green in there too. Okay, let's switch to round brush. And let's start highlighting. So I'm going to take white. Not much. Medium tone, like we always do when we're highlighting from dark to light. And again, I'm going to paint what I see. It doesn't have to be exactly the same. Some in here. Now this is going to go with the shape of the card. It goes on a curve. It curves. This part curves. You'll see it more when I highlight it more. This one curves again out. And this is medium tone right now. Let's go back to the color of the card. Main color. Get it back here. And soften the reflection. You know, acrylic dries really harsh. So I'm trying to get some soft transition of darks and lights. I'm introducing now more of some of the raw umber, but you'll see the raw umber is right down here, right there. So kind of in the middle. Down here as well. This is raw umber with the main color of the card. It's not raw umber by itself. Now let's go back and work on the left hand side, highlighting this part. See, I'm going to introduce a little bit of yellow now, or green I should say. Green, and it's right here. That's again a reflection of the trees. We're getting there. It looks really now, right now it looks funny, but once we start adding the strong highlight like we did up here, it will look really good. Okay, let's again blue and white, and at this point I am paying attention to the shape of this highlight because it makes a big difference. So I have a dark color here which is raw umber with blue, and I'm introducing now blue and white. So see, I have a strong light edge right here. I need to soften this edge. So what I'm going to do is introduce get another brush, round brush, pick up the color of the card, and introduce some of this blue. Actually, just take a bit of softly. So what I'm trying to do is softly transition the color from light to dark without having a hard edge. I'm softening the edge there. All right, I'm going to take white now with blue, and again I'm going to highlight this part where I see the strong light. Again, a little bit more white because I have a strong white right there. More, this is blue with stronger, darker raw umber, and I'm going to highlight this, or actually not highlight, darken this area. Beautiful transition of different shadows and reflections, and it's all about values. If you just pay attention to the values you're seeing in there, you will get a beautiful color of the metal. This is dry, so I can put more of the white. Let it dry. I'll come back to it. Again, this is drying a little bit harsh and dark, so I'm gonna kind of soften this. Get white while it's still wet. Again, because I want to get a soft, nice color in here. And to get a nice transition with acrylics, you want to work when it's still wet. Then you will not have harsh edges. Okay, good. More white. This is where this part of the car is exposed more to the sky and the sun. It's higher, so you see more of the highlight in here because it's not flat. All right. Some greens in here, blues, and a strong highlight. I will wait for this to dry, and I have a feeling there is a little bit of yellow in this strong highlight in there. It's not white, it has a bit of yellow because of the sun. Okay. Okay, so now let's go back to the rest of the card. I'm going to do this part over over this here, right here. There's a greenish reflection. And a bit of more. So this is like this is a blue, but it has yellow in it, and it's more like a gray glaze. A nice green glaze in here. All of the trees surrounding the car. You see some of this green reflected in the metal of the car. Let's highlight this part. Stick blue, white. Again, kind of a medium glaze, not too light. I take a little bit of raw umber to tone it down. This is the color or reflection of the sky. Now let's go back to the upper part. So I'm going to take white, put it in the blue, only blue and white that I have, and I'm going to highlight this reflection right here. So make your color, or your paint, I should say, your paint, make it a little bit more kind of a fluid, because this is metal. So you have kind of interesting edges and reflections. Let's make it a little bit more blue. Otherwise it will look too choppy. All of that reflection on the car. I'm putting a little bit more water in there in my paint, just because I want some green in here. Let's take a bit of white, put it in this green, and kind of introduce that light green in here, because this reflection, the reflection of the trees that we introduced originally, first of all, the paint dried darker, and second, the reflection is not, the reflection of the tree is not one color, because the tree is not one color, you know, it has highlights on it. Okay. Now, once this is dry, if I find that it's not smooth enough, or if it's too much, then I can glaze the whole thing with one color, the color of the card, and it'll be fine. I can unify all of these little details, or the reflections that I put in there, if they interfere with the card too much, with the color of the card. I can see that this part is a little bit too light, so I'm going to tone it down by glazing it in a minute. When we put all of the other details in there, license plate, the lights, chrome, it will look much better. All you're seeing right now, what we're seeing right now is just batches of color, like colors, and it looks sometimes weird, but once we start introducing the rest of the detail on the card, it will look much better. Now, let's take a little bit of that color of the card with the dark brown, and just push this up a bit because it's a bit flat right now. Yeah, and just fix this part. Perfect. Okay. All right. Let's tiny kind of glaze this part a little bit. And to glaze it, I'm going to take the brush I was using, take the color of the card, put some water, make it like a glaze, go over, and tone down. That's better. Now, again, and take the color of the card, no glazing. Again, kind of mix some of these colors and to get a beautiful, soft metal. I'm just blending my colors. I'm blending the paint. Some reflection on this side. This is metal, so it's not flat. It catches all of the colors and reflections around it. So if you see that, if you see me blending here, my colors, is just because I want to make sure that it's a smooth surface that is reflecting what's around it. Okay. Now, let's take more white with blue. And introduce this highlight a bit here, stronger highlight, now that the paint is dry. Make my color a bit more like a glaze, so it's not heavy and choppy. So when I'm doing this highlight right here on the card, this part, the value is stronger, so it's lighter. And then the more I go down, the darker the color is going to be, because again, like mentioned before, this is not a flat surface. It's smooth, it has a roundish shape, and we want to show all of that. Perfect. Okay, let's take a bit of more white, stronger. And I know it's not in there, but I'm going to put it here. That makes it really shiny. It looks very shiny right now, which is great. Okay, one more. You take the blue, actually with the green. Actually, take the green. I'm going to take the green and highlight this part a bit more. Right here with the green. Let's put some white touch of white, very, very small amount of white. Highlight this. This is the door of the trunk right there. And what I'm going to do right now, take raw umber, and introduce some of this raw umber only, just raw umber, right here in certain areas. Let's make it smooth. Let's put some more water in there. Make my color paint smooth so I can get a sharp line. And introduce a hint of that. This is the line, dark line, where I can see there's one here. And I can see another one right here. And another, let's go right there. Go down. The more detail we put on this card, the nicer it will look. Now, let's take the color of the card, the body, like the main color, put a bit of white, and highlight this part. I'm sorry, I'm gonna turn it around. That's the only way I can highlight this part. Right there. It might look a bit choppy right now, the paint, but that's okay. Once we start putting highlights in there, it will look much better. Okay, again, color of the card, and let's do this right here. I always go back after I'm done and tweak and some colors and highlights. All right. Let's move on to the last part, which is this one here. So I'm going to do the same. I'm going to take the color of the card main, mix a batch of the same color. So I have enough in here. All right. Close enough. Doesn't have to be exactly the same. Now, I'm going to wet this part here a bit so I can introduce a very thin part of this, so I can highlight this part. And I'm going to introduce a bit of wet it, and then take my round brush, white, introduce white in here, in that patch, not all of it. I need to have some of it without white. And let's come here and just kind of start highlighting this part. And see how I'm able to blend my color softly, because I did put a layer of highlighted, a layer of paint, I'm sorry, and I'm able to blend my color softly because the base is wet. Again, let's highlight more. And actually, I'm going to add a tiny bit of yellow in here. Okay, I don't know why I'm seeing yellow in these strong highlights. And it's just because, of course, reflection of the sky and the trees and slowly. All right. Slowly. And okay, so what I want is a transition, soft transition in this part from light to dark. So I'm going to keep on wetting my color or my paint and then just go in and try to highlight slowly to get a very soft transition. And I'm getting it. So I'm good. Right at the bottom of this card or this part, the color is slightly darker. It has more of the raw umber in it. And again, I'm trying to keep my blending soft. And the reason I'm trying to make sure that I follow the color I'm seeing in the card, or the lights and dark, or the values that I'm seeing in the card. The reason I'm trying to follow this, because this is a shape of a car, so I want to make sure that I don't lose that shape. Okay, again, let's try to blend. Okay. You can see here that it needs a bit of softening again. So we're getting a nice, beautiful light, medium, dark. Okay, let's highlight. Take the color. Introduce white. A little bit of actually just white. A little bit of white. Let's start from here to make sure that this white is not too strong. And then bring it down. While I'm bringing it down, I'm shaping, following the shape of the card. This part of the card is rounded. This part, this shape. So in order for me to get a rounded shape, I need to follow the shape of the card. This part, this detail, I need to follow to make sure I'm doing the same. I don't want to have a round, a flat detail in here. As you can see, trying to get 3 values in here if possible. Light, medium, dark. And now I'm going to take highlight, more white into my blue, or the color of the card, and I'm going to start highlighting this part more, exaggerating the reflection in here. Make sure that you follow what you see at this point. Anytime you highlight, you are shaping what you're highlighting. That's why it's called highlight. You're highlighting what you're seeing. All right, more white. The more white I put, I make sure that the less I spread it. Let's wait for it to dry, and I'm going to highlight it a little bit more. Meanwhile, I'm going to take the color, main color, a little bit highlighted, not much, a little bit of highlight because I need to show some detail in here, some kind of something happening in here on this side of the card. Okay, perfect. Beautiful, beautiful. It's working. So exciting when it works, eh? Whatever you're doing is working. It's like awesome. All right. Now I'm going to take, just like I did before, raw umber. Put some water in there so your color is fluid. It slides easier, better. And let's give this part a retail. Make sure this detail is right. Sorry about that. I just need to make sure that this line is right. All right, now let's take a bit more of that white, and it's always mixed with a bit of blue. That looks really shiny. In the original reference, this part is very, very shiny. I'm going to adjust the left part. All right. Perfect. Let's give it a bit of highlight in here, just to get that shiny part looking awesome. It's all about, again, all about reflection and values. You will get that beautiful reflection or metal color only by paying attention to the values, light and dark. That's all. It's all about light and dark. Always start with dark, medium, light, because then you can gauge how much light you need to put in there, how light it should be. But if you start with a strong white or a strong light color, then it's very hard to figure out your values. Also, your paint should be a little bit more like a glaze, because again, metal is smooth. So next week when we start working on the rest of the card, it will look even better. Okay, more white, a little bit more white, and we're going to make this highlight that I just adjusted right now brighter on this side right there, up on the top. Again, that's because the top of the card is catching all the sun, and then once you start going down, it curves down. This is going to be slightly darker. Perfect. All right, it's done. We're good. Next week, we'll start adding more detail. The metal on this side, license plate, the glass right there, and the lights.